So, I play Genshin Impact.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I'm kidding. But since I've been playing since about November of 2020, I've seen this game and its fandom and the reception of the game go way up and way down in just a few years. Recently, in the past year at least, there's been some issues that the fandom has with the game. People call Natlan Floplan, and honestly, I can't blame them. My interest has dwindled so much in the past year. I used to play like almost every day, and now I only check in once or twice like every other week. And a lot of people blame Natlan for the downfall of Genshin, but in my opinion, I think that it started to go downhill way before that. And I am not talking about Fontaine, I am not talking about Sumeru, I am talking about Inazuma. Before I get into what I want to talk about with Inazuma, I'm gonna quickly just give an overview of what I am going to talk about in this video and where I think Genshin went wrong. I was going to try to make this video as like coherent as possible and kind of separate it by nation. So I was going to start with Inazuma, then go to Sumeru, then Fontaine. But I think I'm going to kind of combine the elements because I really want to talk about more of cultural references and characters and character design. So a little backstory about Inazuma. Inazuma was like the first nation released that was not within the start of the game. Like Mondstadt and Liyue were already released within the game, and then they released Liyue's story throughout the 1.0 updates, and Inazuma was released in 2.0, and this was like huge. I remember like seeing the little leaks and seeing the character leaks and the map leaks, and I was so hyped for this. When they dropped the trailer of 2.0 and there was the whole scene of Raiden Shogun, you know, taking away visions and being really cool, I was like, oh, this is going to be a good story. And I still stand by that to this day. I loved the story of Inazuma. Raiden Shogun was so cool, and having an actual enemy instead of just the Fatui or the Abyss, like having like a main antagonist of the main story of the game was so good. But then they messed up, and I mean Hoyoverse, MiHoYo, whatever you want to call them. Of course, Raiden Shogun had to be a playable character because all of the Archons are playable characters, but usually all the playable characters are good people, and Raiden Shogun was anything but that. She was a tyrannical leader who shut off her nation from the rest of Teyvat and was taking away people's uniqueness and what gives them inspiration and passion. And by the end of the Archon quest, the Traveler is able to convince A, who is the actual Archon, to rewire the Raiden Shogun to not take away people's visions. And when she was released as a playable character, like every single other playable character, she got a story quest. And that story quest was such a bad redemption arc in my opinion. Now, full disclaimer, I haven't played this story quest in years, but I just remember it being like really weak. Like we just walked around Inazuma a little bit with the Shogun, and like everybody was a little bit afraid of her because this is her first time coming out in 500 years, but there was no redemption for her. I understand that the company doesn't want like a quote-unquote bad character or like an evil character to be playable, but I feel like her redemption arc could have been so much better. Like everyone was suppressed by her rule for years, and then she's just like, I'm sorry guys, and everyone's like, nah, we're cool with you, like it's okay. Like I feel like her story quest should have been much more of a process, and her nation trusting her should have been much more of a process, and it should have taken more time for them to respect her as an Archon again and trust that they won't, what's the word? That she won't, suppress them.
And that's actually, completely honestly, really my only main issue with Inazuma, but this is when I kind of started to realize that, oh, this game is not as fun as I remember it, or not as fun as it used to be. And I remember, like, near the end of the 2.0 patches, I was getting, like, really bored. Like, really, 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 really bored. And yeah, I got really bored by the end of Inazuma, and I was excited for Sumeru. And honestly, I liked the story of Sumeru. There's the whole issue with the characters. I'll get to it into that in a second. But story was good. Story slapped. Fontaine, amazing. Fontaine was a really good redemption for Genshin. It was, I I felt like I was playing Danganronpa all over again. It kind of took me back. It was really fun. I had a good time with Fontaine, and the characters are really cool. I love Farina and her Marie Antoinette aesthetic. I really liked Fontaine. But then came Natlan. And like a lot of other people are saying online, I think that Natlan was rewritten. The story does not match the little teaser that we got in Travail, which was the original little story teaser that Hoyoverse released when the game was also first released. In the Travail trailer, which is narrated by Dainsleif, he says about Natlan, quote, "The rules of war are woven in the womb." The womb is referring to the Night Soul Kingdom. "The victors shall burn bright, while the losers must turn to ash. When the god of war shares this secret with the traveler, it is because she has her reasons." Now, I was a little confused because obviously that doesn't really match up with what happened in the story in Natlan when it was fully released. So I went in and I looked up the Chinese translation, which is this.
战争的规则刻写在生物体内，败者成为战火的余烬，而胜者重燃。
And the rough translation of that to English, according to the Genshin Wiki, is, which is what Dainsleif says, "The rules of war are carved into the bodies of all living things. The defeated become embers of the fire of war, while the victors will be reignited." Now this made me even more confused because since Hoyoverse is a Chinese company and this game is a Chinese game, I just thought, oh, maybe it could just be a translation issue, and that's why we got confused. But these pretty much match up. So where was the secret of people burning? Like, this wasn't a secret, this was like a big thing in the story. The people going into the Night Kingdom and potentially never coming back because they lost in the war was not a secret, and in fact a big thing among the people and of Natlan and how the tribes connected within the main storyline. And that's kind of why I think Natlan was rewritten. That's my main reasoning of Natlan being rewritten, because just simply because this game was clearly planned out from the beginning, and most of the Travail sections for each region in Teyvat match up pretty well with what they ended up with, but Natlan's just doesn't at all. And of course we'll have to wait till Snezhnaya comes out in like around late August this year to see if that one actually matches up, but so far this one really failed in matching the original plan of Natlan. And speaking of Natlan, I kind of want to move on to character designs and representation. So Natlan is supposed to be inspired by Native American culture, Western African culture, and Latin America. You do see that influence in the game, well, at least in the music, which really off topic. I love the music in Genshin. I have always loved it, and I think it's one of its strongest parts. Like, genuinely, like, I have a playlist of all the Genshin music and I listen to it like when I do work and other stuff like that. It's really good. And what I love especially about the music is that they bring in cultural instruments from each region. Like, for example, for Sumeru, they had a lot of South Asian instruments, and for Natlan, they had I forget the name of it, but it's a type of flute that is native to Native Americans. I don't remember which tribe, I'm very sorry, and they had a Native American player playing it in at least the video that they showed, and I'm just like, that's really cool, but can we get that representation in the main characters? In comparison to the other nations, Natlan has very little representation of the culture it's inspired off of within the characters. Like, for example, Liyue, I'm just going to use Ningguang as an example here. Now, Ningguang may be derived from, it's theorized that her name and her just overall stature is derived from the Tang Dynasty poem called The Frolic with the Moon in the Peach Forest on Mid-Autumn, and this kind of tells the story of the Moon Festival, which happens around mid-autumn. I will link a very short video to tell more about it because I'm not very educated in it, but I learned a lot just from like this simple little animated video, so I'm gonna link that right now. The festival has a lot of prosperity with it, and it's something to be celebrated, and this really fits her character because she's the richest person in Teyvat, not just in Liyue, in Teyvat. And her design too is clearly a qipao, which is a traditional Chinese dress, and you can just clearly see that. Now let's compare this to a Natlan character. I'm going to compare her to Sitali. And I'll just like to say in advance, if I mispronounce anything, I am very sorry. I am very bad with words, but I tried my best when it came to pronouncing these. So here we go. Sitali, again, according to the wiki, is a Mexican given name derived from Nahuatl, which is an old Aztec language that is still spoken by a few, I believe, million people to this day. Yeah, just it's called Nahuatl, and that is where her name comes from. She's also described to be a shaman in the game, so while doing my research, I looked up Aztec shamans, and this is what I got. Now, while these pictures show, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what a shaman is. And to start, we have to start with shamanism. And shamanism is a spiritual practice that involves a practitioner, the shaman, interacting with the spirit world through altered states of consciousness such as a trance. The goal of this is usually to direct spirits or spiritual energies into the physical world for the purpose of healing, divination, or to aid human beings in some other way. And I am getting this definition from Wikipedia. So you saw those pictures of those shamans in traditional outfits, which I got mostly from Britannica. So who is this? Does she look like a shaman to you guys? Because she doesn't look like to me, just simply based off my research. Maybe the skirt, but otherwise, like, what is this? What is this? What is this? She's definitely not the only one too. Chaska, her name derives from a Salvadorian folklore, and she's known in the Salvadorian folklore as La Virgen del Agua, which means the Virgin of the Water. And I'm gonna read her story real quick. According to oral tradition, in the Barra de Santiago lived a man named Pachacutec, and I'm very sorry if I mispronounced that again, who arranged a marriage between his daughter Chaska and a prince of the Suhul tribe. Chaska, however, was already in love with a young fisher named Akayotl. I'm so sorry if I pronounced that wrong. She would sneak away from her father to the beach where Akayotl would serenade her. One horrible day, someone shot an arrow at Akayotl while he returned from fishing. The assassin was sent by Pachacutec. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm really bad with pronouncing names, and I'm just reading this straight off of the folklore. So I'm trying to do this. By Pachacutec. Chaska saw the murder and screamed with horror and decided to join her love in death. She tied a rock around her waist and threw herself into the water. The following night of a full moon, the spirit of Chaska appeared for the first time in a white canoe next to Akayotl. From this time, she continued to appear in this way. Whenever the fishermen notice a full moon, they do not go out to fish because they wish to respect and not disturb the virgin of the water and her lover, who in return for that respect bless the fishermen with bountiful fish. Now let's look at Chaska in Genshin Impact. Really? She looks nothing like the folklore, and this is an oral folklore, so of course there's no visual description, but you can kind of get an idea of what she would look like. She doesn't look like where her name comes from at all. And she definitely doesn't act like her name either. I mean, Chaska in the Salvadorian folklore is a poor woman who saw her love get killed and was pulled a Romeo and Juliet, for lack of better words. And Genshin can relate the names of the characters to their backstories or to their cultural references. In fact, they do that in Natlan themselves. Mawika, and again, I'm very sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Mawika, the Archon of Natlan, is inspired by Mawika, the deity of fire, in Maori culture. And guess what Mawika is? She's pretty much a deity of fire. She's the Archon of Pyro. So they can clearly do that. They can clearly make it so that the character relates to the inspiration of where the character came from. And you might be thinking, oh, you're just complaining, like, it's not that big of a deal, it's a game design. But like, I want culture in the game. Like, I want to see Native American influence, I want to see West African influence, I want to see Latin American influence in the main characters. I want, not just in the environment, not just in the music, not just in the NPCs and the enemies, which, by the way, why are the enemies the only ones that actually are even slightly tan? And that's a completely different rabbit hole that I won't go down. But again, they can do this really well in other characters, and I'm going to use Sino as an example. And Sino is not even the best representation, but he still has clear references to Anubis, who is the ancient Egyptian god of funerary rites and the protector of graves and guide to the underworld. And you can clearly see that within Sino's design. It's the little headdress that he's wearing on his head. His name too means dog. Sino means dog in ancient Greek. And Anubis is usually depicted as a person with a dog head or a dog. This is not my only complaint with Natlan's characters. They also look too modern. And I know people are going to say, but Fontaine had machines. Sumeru had the Akasha system, which connected knowledge to everyone. But those were fitting within the nation. Fontaine was able to do that because it kind of had this steampunk style, very like retro mechanic, like engineer from the Renaissance age kind of style that it had. And Sumeru, the Akasha system was represented by a leaf, which, you know, Sumeru is the nation of Dendro and had a big forest area and it was just very representative, but it included that knowledge, and the Akasha system included that and incorporated it into the already inspired environment. And then Natlan brings in a motorcycle and a motorcycle suit for Maoyuka.
And this wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing if Natlan was inspired by modern day, you know, Central America, South America, Western Africa, and, you know, island nations. But it's not. It's inspired off of the ancient versions of those. So why does this character who's inspired by the Aztec deity of fire, when the Aztecs went away, you know, years, thousands of years before motorcycles even existed, why does she have a motorcycle? It doesn't make any sense. Why is she wearing a motorcycle bodysuit? Like, yeah, it looks cool, but like, girl, first of all, you're gonna fall out of that thing, and second of all, the zipper, why is the zipper going full way? That's not how a bodysuit works. It doesn't go all the way around. Like, pick one, okay? Even the newest character who's coming out, her name is Varisa, I believe, or Barisa, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Barisa is speculated to be inspired by a woman named Mbaba Moana Warisa, and I am sorry if I'm mispronouncing that again. And she is a shape-shifting goddess of fertility and the daughter of the sky god Umvelingkwanji in the Zulu region. And the Zulu people are native to southern Africa. This is what Varisa looks like. She's wearing, I don't even know what to call them. I call them like boot covers or shoe covers. She's wearing shoe covers, and she's wearing like a sweater sleeve thing, like, you know, like the sleeveless sweater things, like, oh my god, like that one Kaya art. How, like, may I ask, how does that relate to her inspiration at all? Like, at all? There is no indication that they took even a little bit of the inspiration that she came from Mbaba Mwama Risa. Again, I am so sorry if I pronounced that wrong. An African goddess of fertility would not look like this. She would not be wearing a mini skirt. She just wouldn't. Also, the fact that Varisa is the first quote-unquote plus-sized character in the game, as in she's the first female character to have a different body model, and I'm saying plus-size like very, very lightly, because if that's plus-sized, then oh my god, like. And do you know what her thing is? By the way, the first plus-sized character, and I'm again quote-unquote plus-sized character, as in she just has bigger thighs. Do you know what her thing is? She likes to eat a lot.
Oh, brother, this...
Really? Really? Like, seriously? That's just... Oh my god, it's just bad. And I'm criticizing her design a lot right now, simply because she's inspired off of a cultural goddess from Southern Africa, from the Zulu people, and she looks nothing like it. If she had no relation to that at all, I would think her design is cute, and I am dead serious. She kind of gives off like a Gyaru vibe, and again, I'm not Gyaru, so I'm sorry if she doesn't, but that is an outfit low-key that I would wear. It is a very cute outfit. Does not relate to anything she's inspired off of. Does not have any indication that she's even from Natlan. She low-key looks like she's from Zenless 0, and I just think we did that, the devs, we as in the devs, not the players, the devs need to work on their character design again. I honestly think that Hoyoverse released ZZZ and then was like, let's put the designs into our other games, as in Genshin Impact, and they're not realizing that it's not working. Just take a look at this. This screenshot is the Genshin Impact revenue for each year since 2020 in $1 billion. And you can tell in 2022 was their highest, which I believe is near the end of Inazuma Sumeru, and then it kind of went downhill after that. You can see 2024 was the first year that Genshin Impact did not make $1 billion or more in sales ever since release. And they released, I believe, in around September, October of 2020, so they only had like 4 months to get a little bit of money. But 2024 was the whole year, and they only made about 300 million more than the 4 months they had for release. It's clear that people don't like it, and I think, in my opinion, people are just waiting for Snezhnaya. And honestly, with the way this is going, I won't be surprised if the Tsaritsa pulls up in like a bikini in the middle of winter, but it has like snowflakes on it. And then Genshin is gonna be like, actually, you only have 7 days for this banner, and you have a 50-50 chance, and if you lose the 50-50 chance, you're never gonna get the character, and you're going to pay $100 to even get the character, because, you know, I feel like with every single character that they've been releasing, it's like this.
All right, put the money in the bag. Put it in.
You're facing the wrong way, sir.
All right, give me the money.
It feels like that Hoyoverse is trying to catch up and trying to get back to those 2022 sales that they had with these new characters that kind of look like they're from ZZZ, because ZZZ overall, I believe, has been very successful. And it's just not working. It just doesn't fit the vibe of Genshin Impact. In conclusion, I just think they should return back to having more obvious references to what they're inspired by in their nations, in their main characters. And yeah, that was pretty much my rant. I don't really have much else to say other than that, like, there's the whole issue of like there being no tan characters when logically there should be, but I think that is for another video. Thank you so much for watching, and again, thank you so much for all the support I've gotten over the past few weeks. I really did not expect any of my videos to blow up like they did, and honestly, I am just so happy that they did. I've gotten so many nice comments, and also I've received a lot of constructive criticism, which I really appreciate. I'm never one to be stingy and think everybody is out to get me. I loved all the constructive criticism. Some people said like, oh, remove the game audio because it's kind of distracting. I did, and I replaced it with just like some music under it, and comments like that really helped me and helped me grow this channel just in general. So thank you so much for all of the support. Remember to follow me on other socials, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.